Hello students, welcome. So now we will see the point defects. Point defects are the defects which occur in any material, because no material is ideal. Almost every material has some impurities, and these impurities or imperfection can exist on macroscopic and macroscopic scales, and these impurities will help to enhance the properties of materials. For example, if you take Ni, that is nickel, cobalt and titanium based superalloys, these have mechanical properties better than the pure metals, because if we talk about the alloys are generally defects, because we take a pure material, we take a pure metal, if we add something into that we call as a defect. So alloys are generally, we can say, a kind of defects. If we have a intrinsic semiconductor and we dope that semiconductor by either boron or phosphorus, we can change the conductivity of the sample, and this boron or phosphorus we can call as defects or impurities in semiconductor. Similarly, if we have a metal which shows optical properties, we can change the properties by incorporation of defects. We can categorize defects into 4 types. One is called as 0-dimensional or point defects, 1-dimensional or line defects, 2-dimensional or surface defects, and 3-dimensional or volume defects. We will see these defects one by one. In this lecture, we will see only the point defects. Before that, we will look some basic terms. First is alloying. Alloying is the addition of any element to the parent element, and that we do intentionally. So intentionally addition of one element to the other element. If we add in very small quantity, that we call as doping. So if we add two different elements, we can get two types of materials or two types of species. One we call as solid solution, other we call as compound or intermediate structure. In solid solution, again we have two types. One is called as interstitial solid solution, one is called as substitutional solid solution. So now we will see what is meant by a solid solution. Compound generally are the material in which we form a new crystal structure or a new type of material, but in solid solution the existing structure, that is the crystal structure of the material, remains same. So there are two types of solid solutions. One is called as substitutional solid solution. So in substitutional solid solution, one atom get replaced by the another atom. So you can see here, this is the alloying element. This element we have added to the element of red color, and after addition, this blue color atom will take position of the red atom. That means we can substitute the red atom by blue atom. Or we can replace red atom by blue atom. This we call as substitution solid solution. In the case of interstitial solid solution, generally the alloying element has a smaller size and it will go into the interstitial space or the void space or the empty space between the atoms. So this has a smaller size, it won't substitute the host atom, it will always go at the interstitial side. Right? So there are some rules for this formation of solid solutions. If this rule get followed, then and only then we will have a solid solution. Those rules we call as Hume-Rothery rules. Hume-Rothery has developed or designed these rules. First one is that the diameter difference between the solute and the solvent atom should be less than 15%. Second, the electronegativity difference should be less in two elements. Third, the valency of the elements should be same. And fourth, the crystal structure of the element should be same. So here crystal structure should be same, valency should be same, electronegativity difference should be small, and the diameter difference should be less than 15%. If all these conditions get followed, we can get solid solutions. For example, if we have element A and if we have element B, if we added element B into element A, and if the structure of element A is FCC, if after addition the structure retains same, then we can call that as a solid solution. There is another rule here that has to be taken care, is that the element with higher valency is dissolved more in the element of lower valency. Right? So now we will see some examples of solid solutions. So first example is of Ag and Au. They have same crystal structure. Their radius ratio is almost same, so is less than 15%. Valency is same, and the electronegativity difference is small. So it follows all the conditions of Hume-Rothery, and thus it will get or it will make a solid solution in between these two elements. Similarly, for copper and nickel, crystal structure is same, diameter difference is less than 15%, valency is not same, and the electronegativity difference is small. So here the valency is not same, but it will form a solid solution. Similarly, if you take germanium and silicon, these are the covalent solids. Here we have diamond cubic crystal structure. The diameter difference is less than 15%. Valency is same, and electronegativity is almost exactly the same. So these three pairs will form a solid solution. If the rule don't get followed, we will have another compound. For example, if we take a Cu and Zn, for Cu the structure is FCC, for Zn the structure is HCP. Here the valency is 1 for Cu, for Zn the valency is 2. So this will not have solid solution. So it will form intermetallic compound at some of the concentration level, say for example 50%. So it will form intermetallics. So there is no complete solid solution, but if you add zinc into the copper till 35-8%, it will have a solid solution. After that, another compound will form. Similarly, in the case of addition of copper into the zinc, only 1% of copper goes to the zinc for making solid solution. After that, it will make another compound or another structure. So as I said, the element which has more valency will dissolve more in the element which has lower valency, because electron bonding is easy there as compared to the element for lower valency. These are typical examples of alloys and solid solution. So here you can see that there are two types of material. If you see the microstructure, this is the scanning electron microscope image. You can see one is in dark color and one is in faint color. So this is alloy. There is no atomic level mixing in these two. However, if you see here, you cannot see two types of material. So this we can call as solid solutions. So now we will start again our topic, that is the point defects. Point defects will occur in non-ionic crystal as well as ionic crystal. In non-ionic crystal, we will have two types of defect. One is called as vacancy and one is called as impurity. While in ionic crystals, we have two types of defects. One is called as Frenkel defect and one is called as Schottky defect. Remember that in ionic crystal, defects occur in a pair, and in ionic crystal, the charge neutrality has to be maintained. So this size of the defects, point defect we call as point defects because it is only 1 to 2 atomic diameter and it's like a single point, that's why, and it's only the atomic defects, that's why it is called as point defect. So for now we will see one by one, vacancy followed by impurity. Vacancy is missing of atom from its original position. So we can see here we have a perfect crystal. There are no impurities, which means there is no vacancy. All atoms are perfectly at their original positions. Here you can see that atom is missing here. This we call as a vacancy. Vacancy of atom. That is removal of atom from its position, and due to this there will be a trace around the vacancy. In impurity, we have two types of impurity. One is called as interstitial or one is called as substitutional. Interstitial means the element which has to be added, or we can call as dopant, it will go into the interstitial position or the void position. So here you can see this atom is in orange color or atom is in blue color. It is at the interstitial position. It is not taking position of the blue atom. It is at the white position. Similarly, if you use substitutional impurity, it will replace one of the atom in the host material. Now we will see the point defects in ionic solids. First is the Frenkel defect. So ionic solids always composed of two ions. One is cation and one is anion. Cation has a positive charge, anion will have a negative charge. So since they have a charge, so here charge neutrality has to be maintained. So this we can see a pure crystal without any impurity. In case of Frenkel defect, the atom at its position or ion at its position will get moved to another location. So we can see here ion from this position moved here, again here atom at this position move here. So here there are two kind of defects. One is vacancy, another is interstitial. So that's why I said defects occur in a pair. And here, since the cation is smaller in size, it will get displaced to the interstitial side. Here, since there is no removal or addition of ions, the charge neutrality is maintained and there is no change in the density. Typical examples are NaCl, AgBr, KCl and CaF2. So the charge neutrality has to be maintained in the case of ionic solids. That's why if we replace KCl, we have a KCl, that is potassium chloride. This is the initial geometry of the KCl. This green color atoms are K plus and this atoms are Cl minus. Suppose if we replace a K plus by Ca2 plus, we have to replace two ions of the potassium, right? So you have to replace two ions of the potassium to maintain a charge neutrality. Similar is true for anion substitution also. Another defect is a Schottky defect. In Schottky defect, a pair of anion and cation will go missing from its position. So this is the perfect crystal without any impurity. Blue color is the cation and green color is the anion. After defect formation, we have a vacancy of cation as well as anion. Here we can observe that a pair of anion and cation is missing. Charge neutrality is maintained. There is a change in the density because atom cations and anions go missing from their position. Example are again NaCl, EgBr, KCl and CaF2. So if you want to find out the equilibrium concentration of point defect, we have to use this formula. This formula is based on the free energy of crystal. Change in the free energy of the crystal. When we add a point defect in a crystal, the free energy of the crystal changes at a particular minimum delta G, that is the Gibbs free energy. We will have an equilibrium. So to find out the concentration of defect, we have to use this equation. N upon N is equal to exponentially of minus HF by RT. N is the sites available for defect formation. This can be Avogadro's number. N is the defect concentration. HF is the enthalpy and R is the gas constant. Or we can use another equation, N upon N equal to exponential of minus QD by KT. Here QD is the activation energy. So there are two equations, one is in the form of enthalpy, one is in the form of activation energy. If you want to use this formula for ionic solids, remember you have to use 2 in the denominator, because in ionic solids defects occur in pairs. So remember that for metallic solids it is only RT, for ionic solids it is 2RT. Similarly for metallic solids it is only KT, for ionic solids is 2KT.